So when converting a old car like this 72 Duster from a carbureted system to fuel injection, you've got to pretty much completely redo the fuel system. Stock systems are pretty much just a signal line from your fuel tank up to the engine block, which has to pump. So this particular car also had a vent tube from the fuel tank up to the engine compartment for a carbon canister, and that I ended up using as a return line. Basically just vented the tank in the back. So originally I got this car running and had to put a new fuel tank in with the carbureted, and there was no fuel injection, all-inclusive tank available. So I was actually going to convert this one's fuel tank to actually put a fuel pump in the tank. That is actually pretty labor intensive. There's kits like Aeromotive makes that probably make it a lot easier. Turns out their Tanks Incorporated had started making a fuel injection fuel tank, which actually has your fuel pump in it, drop in from the top, and this actually made things quite a bit simpler. Just had to make an access hole for servicing it in the future from the trunk. So when setting up the fuel system for this car, we also considered the fact that we were going to put a turbo on it eventually, so we actually got a boost reference fuel regulator and did the calculations based on what that horsepower output would be.
So top one would be a stock Duster or any of the old cars. You just have a single fuel line to a mechanical fuel pump up to, in this case, a 1 barrel. And if you're converting to EFI, you need an additional line. That particular car actually already had a second fuel line going forward for the carbon canister, being California emissions. So that made it much easier when I converted to EFI. I just changed fuel tank to one that already had a high pressure fuel pump in it, vents on that. But the problem we ran into is the Edelbrock pressure regulator. The instructions basically wanted you to do this: pressure in, and then out to the fuel rail, and then the return off of it. And that was actually, would not hot start because you'd run your fuel into vapor there. The corrected one, the way I wanted it to go to begin with. So fuel comes through the fuel rail to the pressure regulator, and then it's returned back. And this one is helping avoid vapor issues.